Hello, good afternoon.
Hello. Welcome, everybody, to the Wellness Crusaders show. I'm Patti Reiss with my beautiful co-host, Jessica, here. And we're actually in my kitchen. I don't know if you could see my big sign back there.
Can't make it bigger.
But we need to make it bigger. So we're trying to make it bigger. Bear with us. We don't have our tech people with us today.
We're on our own.
We're on our own. Oh, I bet if you go down there, hit one of those. No?
Oh, wait, this one right here. Enter full screen.
Oh,
there we go.
Woo! There we are. Oh, look at us. Okay, well, everybody.
Oh, I need an apron too.
Do you want an apron?
No, we're
Okay, well, you haven't been cooking. I have been cooking.
Patti has been cooking. Her kitchen smells delicious.
And I will tell you about my soup in a little bit, but why don't we share about the show?
Yeah, so today we are talking about eating to thrive and the power of mindful eating.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you had a book too. I saw that you had a book called Mindful Eating.
I did. I brought it down. I love my book props because they just help me remember. But this is a great book. Hope we have that.
We need to mirror it. How do we mirror?
I don't know how to mirror it, but it's called Mindful Eating, a guide to rediscovering a healthy and joyful relationship with food by John Josen Bays.
Okay,
MD.
look, we just switched. Now you can do
Oh, okay. There you go, folks. So I love the cover anyway. It's very simple. Oh, there we go. So this is by an MD who's also, I believe, a Buddhist. And it's really been helpful to me because I was never.
Is that confusing?
Yeah.
I guess on.
Okay, there, that's better. Okay. For one thing, I don't know about you, Jess. I mean, you have more meditation background than I do, but I was never a mindful eater. I was just like starving a lot. So I would just, when I get to that point of like, oh my gosh, my blood sugar is dropping, I would just chow down my food. And as I've developed and studied nutrition and mindful eating and realizing, oh, what it does to your digestion, that we don't want to just chow down on things when we eat, because we actually don't digest it. It's not just about the spiritual part of being mindful and conscious about what we're doing, which is what we are going to talk about today, but it's also like you don't digest your food very well. So I was like, oh, your digestion switch actually goes off when you're eating really fast, or you're doing something while you're eating, which is something I do occasionally if I'm, sometimes I just want to catch up on something. So I'll watch a little or listen to a podcast. And I guess that's okay too. But really, we want to just, when we want to be mindfully eating, we want to just be eating and being aware of the food and what it's doing for our bodies. Because we really are walking food. I mean, our food and our relationship with food is so critical, which is underneath a lot of issues that people have around food. They're not connected to it. I certainly wasn't.
Yeah, we're so disconnected from it. And I mean, there's having a desk job. Like that's what the majority of my life has been, is having a desk job. And so you just eat and eat and eat. You're just mindlessly eating, not conscious of it. And before you know it, like you've eaten a whole bag of chips or a whole thing of nuts or whatever it is, and you didn't even get a chance to enjoy it.
I know.
To savor the flavor.
It's interesting. It's bringing back to my conversation with my client today. He has some issues with eating. He's never been an eater. And one of the things he's struggling with now, I mean, he went through alcoholism and he also went through a brain injury, but he's never really been an eater. He's never had a relationship with food. And he's at this place now. He's a young to me, like in his early 50s, and like he has to actually start eating food because his health is completely. So we actually need food to live. And the other part of our talk today is about eating to thrive, not just to live and survive. We want you to understand that you actually get to thrive from the food and the choices that you put into your body. But the whole idea of sitting mindfully with food is a little way off for this particular person right now. But he's starting to eat because he realizes that He may end up in a nursing home. I mean, there's like real consequences for not slowing down and letting stress leave your body and choosing foods to feed our body. We need that more than anything now, friends, particularly with a lot of the stress going on in the world right now. I mean, you and I were talking about it earlier. What's happening with the flooding and the fires and
The tornadoes.
the
and
tornadoes,
hurricanes
and some of us believe and understand it's manipulated. So that's also a really hard thing to accept, that people would harm other people purposefully. So it is what it is, but the best thing we can do is still take care of ourselves. And speaking of mindfulness, and send prayers to the area. Like we can consciously connect. And obviously when we're in a group, it works a little stronger, but there's, have you ever heard of the intention experiment? I don't know if any of you watching have heard of that. It's a book by Lynn McTaggart. So she's part of this metaphysics, new thought form group. I think she has her degree in psychology, if that helps. But there's a book called The Intention Experiment, and it's about people coming together to intend an outcome for a certain area. And, we can do that with North Carolina and Florida right now, any of the fires. So the best thing we can do is take care of ourselves. And yes, we're going to feel sadness and grief and just like, oh, and then pray, really sit together as we can and pray. So as you come together in groups, focus on that area of that healing in that particular part of the country or world.
Well, and be mindful of the possessions or what you still have.
Yeah. I got to turn my soup down. Hold
right?
on. Yes.
Because practicing gratitude also helps. And gratitude is a lot more healing than being in that place of fear.
Absolutely.
Because when we are in that place of fear, it's a lower vibration. So
it's a challenge though, man, especially when people are being hurt. And we see that even without the tornadoes and the floods and the fires, we see people struggling with homelessness and people not having any food. It always still hits my heart when I see someone sitting on the street. So the best thing we can do is continue to pray and take care of ourselves and take care of each other as best as we can.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I guess I just want to interject this, because those of us who are caretakers can get into caring for a lot of others and leaving ourselves behind. And the better that we take care of ourselves, feed ourselves, then we can feed others.
Right.
As well too.
Well, yeah. And when we care for ourselves, that allows other people permission to take care of themselves as well. We get to lead by example, and we get to be the change that we want to see in the world too.
Mm-hmm.
So being mindful is about more than just eating, right? Mindful in our daily activities, mindful with washing the dishes, mindful walking, mindful breathing,
sipping your tea
mindfully. So we're going to go over steps on how to do mindful eating.
Okay, cool. Can I interject something again before we do that? Because I'm really excited about that. You're going to lead that, right?
Yeah, I can lead that.
Okay. I might.
We didn't get any little food for us to do, but that's okay.
I have a big pot of soup over there.
Yeah, but we're eating that after.
We're going to eat that after. And we will certainly eat it mindfully today. But the thing I wanted to say, coming back to the fear and some of the anxiety and depression that many are feeling, that if you're not eating well and taking care of yourself, you will have anxiety more than likely. It's very hard to override that unless your brain is fed. So we're talking about the biochemistry of anxiety and fear too. And I mentioned this to you. I was like, well, when I'm fearful, I don't eat. And you were saying that when you're fearful or have anxiety or sad, you eat more. So everybody does. And I said, well, you're the better off one. Because it's better to eat than not to eat.
However, I'm not eating healthy things when I'm
Oh, well, you didn't tell me that part. Oh,
remember those 30 cookies that I ate?
all right. Well, there you go. Well, that's not going to work, because if you're eating just cookies and like chips, you won't get the nourishment to feed the brain. Because basically what we need, and this is in a nutshell, and I'm going to talk about my class that I'm doing in a little bit later, and you're going to talk about your mindfulness class. We need protein at every meal. We need protein at every 4 hours. And what I wanted to, this is me jumping around a little bit, but I think it's good jumping, is eating like every 4 hours. Like that also is not where, because when I used to graze, I was telling actually my client today, who's, he was talking about his mom eating all the time, like little bits all the time. And that might be fine, but really it's not. Because we really want to eat a good meal and then 3 or 4 hours later have another meal and just sit with that meal instead of just picking, because your body also needs a break. And you know a lot about this with your digestive training, needs a break from constantly using the energy to break everything down. We want it for other things.
Yep. Well, we need it for healing.
Yes.
We need that energy for healing. And so we have to allow that time for our body to rest and digest. And when we do that, that also puts us in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest nervous system. So if we're constantly eating and we're constantly grazing, then
I'm gazing at you.
Then we're living in our fight or flight.
Yes.
So that sympathetic dominant state happens to so many of us. We are go, eat quickly, and eat quickly as quick as we can. So we're constantly in that fight or flight state. Mm-hmm. We're not in that rest and digest. We're not in that slow down. And so when big things like this happen in the world, a lot of us are having that fear.
Yes.
And we want to run and we want to hide and we want to escape. But last night, all I wanted to do was sit and meditate. Like for me, because that is my place of security and that is my place of comfort. And when there's big things, I get really, really quiet and I go inside and I connect to the divine. I connect to God. I connect to myself. I connect to my heart. And so I do have friends that are in Florida. I have quite a few friends that are there, and they were all in the line of the hurricane. Mm-hmm. And so last night I was reaching out to them and just praying for them, but praying for everybody that it's affecting too, right?
Absolutely.
And the more that we practice slowing down, the less rushed our life is, and the more peace and the more ease we have.
Yeah.
And the more our body responds in a healthy way instead of that anxious way, and our brain is able to think logically and rationally instead of residing in that, like, I've got to get out of here. Oh my gosh, the world is crumbling. We're all going to die. Everybody's going to die. Like, that is not serving anybody. That's not serving us. That's not serving the people that are affected by it. It's just playing into that energy, that fear-driven energy. And there's a really good book called Outwitting the Devil.
Oh, I know that.
By Napoleon Hill.
Oh, yes.
And
I love that.
That's what they talk about, is that fear is controlled by the devil. Like it is one of those energies that anytime you are in that fear, you are not living in your divine purpose. You are not living in harmony. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when you're trying to make a decision based off of fear, it's not going to be a logical, rational decision.
Yeah. No.
And you'll live with regrets.
Indeed. Yes. Yeah, I agree. And I know Napoleon Hill. He also wrote, this is Think and Grow Rich, which was another interesting book. I know it's a little off topic, but basically it's about the energy, and that's what we're talking about: fear energy, energy around money. It's not about getting money. It's about having a feeling of what rich is to you, and what it means to actually be okay with where you're at. and then feeling that vibration. So it all comes back to vibration. And for sure, I mean, if we're in a flood or we've had a trauma, and many of you and I and both of us have had traumatic experiences in our life where everything just goes like, so we are moved into that fight or flight, right? That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to have those experiences during an event where we have to, like, okay, we got to make a decision. We got to get out of the house before the river takes our house, right?
Yeah, but if we're constantly living in that, we're so fatigued when that moment happens.
But correct. So we don't want to be living in it constantly, because then we can't tap into that. This just popped into my head about the flooding. My sister-in-law and brother are in Vermont, and there was a flood up there a couple years ago, and they were talking about a friend of theirs that stayed in their house. The floods were coming, and a flash flood came, and it took her house, and she was still in it, and she had to make a decision to jump out. I think she jumped out the front door into the river, and she survived. But if she had stayed in the house, like, you have to make that decision. That's the adrenaline's there, and you've got to go boom. Mm-hmm. But we only need that for situations like that. We don't need it all the time, friends.
No, because then it's going to lead to adrenal fatigue.
Absolutely. And not being able to make a quick decision when you need it.
Blood sugar dysregulation, weight gain, hormone interruption.
Yeah, it's a cascade.
Thyroid issues.
It's a stress cascade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk more about mindful eating.
All right. And then we can talk about Eat to Thrive maybe a little more after.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we talk a lot on our show. We talk a lot on our show about eating organic foods and grass-fed meats, pasture-raised foods, and chickens and things like that. And the reason behind that is because when we are choosing our food, we're consciously choosing what we're participating in with the treatment of the animals and the treatment of our earth and the treatment of our foods. Mm-hmm. And so it goes beyond just eating mindfully. It goes beyond, like, picking our food, actually being intentional with it and having that consciousness behind it. And this plays off a lot about, like, what Omar from Rawtopia talked about as well.
Yes.
So he only picks foods from farmers that are doing regenerative farming, and he brings in product from people that are conscious with their ways of producing their product.
Absolutely. It's not just the food, it's the whole chain.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They actually did a study, Pati, in the military.
Oh.
And they connected plants and animals to a MIDI device before they were harvested.
Okay. I think I know a little bit about this.
And so the animals and the plants whose lives were not honored, they let out a scream. So they all let out this horrible scream, but the animals whose lives and the plants whose lives were honored and they were given gratitude before they harvested them, they went peacefully. So now there was meaning behind their life being lost, right? And we can do that. We can shift that energy with our food when we pray over it as well.
Absolutely.
Being grateful. So every time I say a prayer, whenever I sit down to eat, I always say a prayer, and I say thank you to the animals whose lives were lost. Thank you to all the lives who went into bringing this food before us. Mm-hmm. So it's the farmers, it's the people who provide the water, it's the stores who bring it in, it's the truckers who bring it here, it's the people who supply the gas for the vehicles. Yeah. It goes beyond just that head of lettuce, right? It's everything that goes into bringing that before me. So every time I sit down, I say thank you for all of the lives and for all of the energy that went into bringing this food before me today. Because if you look at this piece of paper too, right? We drew cards before. It says, play with me, but mine said, keep it simple. I'm not keeping it simple today because we're talking about mindfulness, and mindfulness goes really super deep. But this card isn't just a card. It was a tree. It's got rain. It's got soil. It's got sunshine. It's got nighttime.
Could you show the other side too? There.
It's got the artist.
The artist.
The artist who did it. Every single thing that went into bringing this card here.
And the message behind
And
it.
the messages. Whoever created the.
Well, they're actually done by a psychotherapist. They're group therapy cards. I found out. I use them a lot.
So
right.
them, and then whoever designed the paint colors, right? So whoever created that paint, all those people are inside of this card.
Can I show mine now?
Yeah, show yours. And Patty's is go with the flow.
It says flow state.
Oh, flow state.
And to be honest, because I try to be a really honest person, I picked some other ones I didn't like as much. But this is the one I wanted to show you because I love the art on here, but this is like my favorite, one of my favorite card in the deck is getting into that flow state. And that's where you are with mindful eating and mindful living. You're in a flow state. You're in a gratitude going, okay, thank you for this. And it doesn't take that long. And even if there's a lot going on in your life right now, which for many of us there is, just to be able to go, even thank you for the challenges that are coming up, because many of us know the challenges that we have been through are all part of our transformation and growth. It doesn't feel like that when you're in it. It's like, oh, I just don't know if I can do this. And sure enough, that's there. But as we overcome that and we take steps to transform that into growth and healing, we are thankful for it because it's made us part of who we are today. And it's part of, I would even add, your soul journey. You know, I mean, we came in to learn some lessons and let's get them now.
It's part
we
of
don't have to learn them again.
Part of this human experience.
Okay. Are we ready?
Ready?
For the mindful eating experiment. Should I get some food though?
Yeah. Do you have anything? What do we have?
Sure, Jess. You chat with the folks.
I mean, we're in the kitchen.
We're in my kitchen, so I know I have food. I probably won't do the soup just because it's a little messy.
It's too hot right now,
yeah,
too.
And it's too hot. But let me see what I can pull out of my refrigerator as you chat.
Oh, Patty's got so much delicious food here.
Oh yeah. Okay, well I have just the right thing.
I don't know which way to lean because we're mirrored on here.
Lean over. All right. I am going to give us a little rice. It's actually a fried rice.
Fried rice.
I usually serve it warm, but we're going to do it a little chilled because I'm pulling it right out of the refrigerator. And
Patty's in her element.
yes, I am, because food feeds, as you just said.
There we go.
Hello, I'm over here. I'm just putting a little into our bowls. Okay.
So if anybody has any questions too, you can always reach us through email at info@thewellnesscrusaders.com. And we also want to say thank you to kmmu.org for
thank you
for letting us host the Wellness Crusaders on their platform. So very grateful for that opportunity.
Your fork.
Ooh, I have a fork.
And I'd like to show you what we're eating. It tastes better than it looks. So this is one of those meals that have, this is like a high vibe food meal, a full personalized meal with protein, fat, and complex carbs. And sometimes that's what we can make a soup. This is actually fried rice. So it's soaked rice. And then it has, we bought a bunch of collards at the local.
That were so huge.
The collards are in here. Chives from our garden are in here. Mushrooms, whatever we had in the refrigerator, we just basically chopped up, sauteed. And then we put eggs in it. So that's the protein in there too. So, and then we can eat from this for a couple days now, you know. So this is how learning how to eat and get into your kitchen can be supportive for everything, your brain and your
Yeah.
everything. And it tastes good.
Your brain, your body, your
brain,
gut,
body,
your
So-
spirit,
your spirit,
your
everything,
soul.
your soul.
Okay,
you're
so-
direct.
When you prepare your food, you're engaging with it. You're creating a new relationship with your food. You're noticing the texture of it, the colors of it, the smell of it. Ooh, that's delicious.
I know. I'm really hungry. All of
Yeah.
a sudden,
And as you do this, what starts to happen is your mouth starts to salivate.
it is.
So this is the start of the digestive system. As soon as you smell the food, as soon as you start to engage in it, now your digestive juices are starting to flow. So I want to first, before we go further, let's talk about how the digestion works. So,
Okay.
Because that's important. It's
okay.
important. Okay. So we take the food into our, we bring the food up, we smell it,
Mhm.
our saliva starts to flow.
Mhm.
Okay, we chew the food, and when we start to chew our food, our saliva mixes with the food and starts to break it down. It's also grabbing the nutrients from it and absorbing it in our mouth and sending it to where it needs to go immediately.
Mhm.
Okay, as we continue to chew, it breaks it down into what is called a bolus. And we swallow that bolus, it's going to go down our esophagus and into our stomach, which our stomach is on the left side. Okay, from the stomach, on the right side is our liver. And then from our stomach, it's going to go down into our small intestine. So our small intestine is all throughout here, throughout our stomach, and then down through the small intestine. Now, as this is breaking down, our liver and our pancreas and our gallbladder are sending bile and gastric juices or pancreatic juices down into our intestines to further break down the food. Okay, so they're going through the intestines, more absorption is happening, more breakdown is happening. And then from our small intestine, it's now going to go over into our large intestine.
Mm.
So this is our ascending colon, our transverse colon, it goes across, and then our descending colon, and then it goes down and out our rectum and our anus, and we have a bowel movement. So what's left over with our bowel movement is mostly fibrous tissue or fibers and just stuff that we did not digest.
Correct.
Okay. So knowing that now, when you eat your food, you're going to smell it. You've already engaged with it by cutting it up and chopping it and looking at the colors. Now look at the texture of it some more. And then you're going to take a little bite of it. And instead of swallowing it immediately, notice the flavor of it. Chew it up, notice the texture of it, and close your eyes and see if you can feel the energy of the food and sense the color of it. You want to chew 20 to 30 times. And then as you swallow it, notice the way that it goes down your esophagus and makes its way into your stomach.
Mm.
When it's in your stomach, your gastric juices are mixing together to break it down even further.
Are we going to do another bite?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to do another bite?
Yes.
So you take a bite. You can close your eyes and totally engage with it. Notice all the texture and the flavors and the scent and the yumminess. How it feels on your tongue and the roof of your mouth and against your teeth.
Mm. It's so good.
You know what? It's really fun to do it with the peppermint patties, the York peppermint patties.
I love those peppermint patties.
Yeah, I'm not I'm not a big advocate for those, but it's fun to do that because when you break them by your ear, they let out this like ah sound. So it goes.
Really? Oh my gosh! I didn't know that. Wow.
So that's another fun thing to do. And then you can even do this with your tea, with your drink,
Yeah,
right? You
let's
bring
do with
your
our
drink
tea
in.
now. And these are local cups that I just bought at
They're so cute. A little
Okay.
art thing.
an art thing in here in Salt Lake City, an artist up the street from my house. So
And then
here's
you
to the
smell
locals.
it. And you sip it.
Mm.
And you swirl it around in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And savor the flavor.
Which, for many of us in sobriety who no longer do that with wine, I do it with tea. And this is actually, here's our big teapot. So the tea that's in here, I'll just take a little moment to share about that, especially because we were talking about anxiety earlier. This is actually a really calming tea. You could also do a digestion tea if you're wanting tea with your meal. This is actually, we had this before our meal. There's another whole digestive tea you can do, but this one is actually for calming the nervous system, which is actually pretty good for digestion too, because you want to be calm. So this has chamomile in it, lemon balm, which is one of my favorite herbs for calming the nervous system. Skullcap, which is another one if you haven't heard of that one before. Rose hips. So I love rose hips for the flavor and also for the vitamin C. Let me put one other thing in there. I can't remember, but it was another calming herb. Oh, oat straw. So oat straw is actually the straw from the oats. Duh. And it's actually very calming, and has some little traces of tryptophan in it too. So oats have some tryptophan in it, which helps with calming and bringing up serotonin
And sleep.
and sleep. Yep.
OCD, ruminating
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah.
Suicide.
Yep. So thank you for that, Jess. It's such a good reminder and it's such a good experience. I remember the first time I did this, I was in health coaching school in New York, and we had to do that we had to take, I don't know, maybe it was probably a fourth of a cup of rice, and we had to eat it for like a half an hour.
Oh my gosh.
Like they had us, well, maybe it was a little less, but it felt like forever. And just to be mindful about it for many different reasons, to what you explained about, breaking it down and connecting with the food and
and engaging all of your senses with it too.
Right. So
well, and put away your phones, put away your electronic devices, put away the TV, and be with your food and be with your family or your friends.
Yeah, there's we talk a lot about in some of the food education classes that we do for the academy and myself is, there's times where we're going to eat with other people, like you and I are going to have dinner together tonight, and probably Terry. We probably won't wait for him though, but he can have it when he gets home. But then there's times where we don't have someone to eat with, and it's really important. And I share this with my students and clients that we need to feed ourselves. And I had to learn how to do that, because I was like, okay. And for many, we'll cook for others and we'll eat when others are eating. But when it's time to feed us, we want to sit down and feed ourselves, because remember, it's feeding all of your cells. It is part of you, right? So if the choices that we make for food to come in and being able to sit with it and digest it, and yeah, I mean, you may not have a half an hour to eat. You may have 10 minutes, but those 10 minutes, you can digest everything. You can turn it into your cells, which is really
and your
cool.
cells vibrate based on what your food is doing. So if you're eating toxic stuff, your cells are dying.
Absolutely.
If you're eating healthy, vibrant food
that's right,
nutritious and delicious, then your cells are going to vibrate and you're going to feel happier. You're going to have more energy. You're not going to crave the sugars and the starches and the junk food, and it's going to feed your whole entire body.
It's so
every
cool.
system.
Yeah, and
your
that's
nervous system, your digestive system, your cardiovascular system, your endocrine system.
all of it. And it's one of the biggest issues we have on our planet right now, is this, and people not being able to handle some of this trauma and the stresses that show up in life because they're unstable. They don't have the resources in their body and their brain to handle some of the stuff coming in because they've been eating crap. And listen, I was a crap eater. I didn't know anything about nutrition because, oh, by the way, they don't teach that to you in school, right? Unless you go to school.
Wait, they do. They teach you the food pyramid.
Yeah. So we get to shift that around and realize that, yes, please make it a priority to eat well, take care of yourself, and figure out where you're buying food. And yes, it's expensive. I hear that a lot, but so is junk food if you start adding it up. And then you have to keep eating because you're not satiated. You see, if you don't eat real food with protein, complex carbs, veggies, some grains, and good fat, you will still be hungry. Pizza doesn't cut it. I mean, you could have a pizza that was, with really whole grains and for some, the gluten-free. And then you could put some good cheese on it. You could put
raw.
What's that?
Raw cheese.
You could do raw cheese on it, but you could
cheese.
Also do goat cheese. You could do protein
Parmesan.
On it. You could do veggies on it. So you can have a pizza, but it's got to be a high vibe pizza. And that's what I like to call our food, Jess, is high vibe, because it's a vibration. And the more you can eat food that lifts your vibration and feeds your cells, oh man, the better you're going to feel, the better you're going to sleep, the more your anxiety will dissipate.
Yeah. Well, and the happier you'll be too.
Yes.
So, and I wanted to say too, because Pati said, I know that healthy food costs more, but it also costs a lot to be sick.
That's right.
There's so much, medical bills, opportunities lost because you're not feeling well.
Taking more Advil. How much Advil?
More medications. Yeah. And the pharmaceutical industry just loves to hand out medication like it's candy.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I have clients that I'm dealing with that are trying to come off of their pharmaceutical medications because it's caused them to have, my one guy, he has chronic kidney disease right now because of the side effects from his medication.
Mm-hmm. Would that be Adderall by any chance?
No, it's actually lithium.
Oh, interesting. The lithium, probably because there's two different types of lithium, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
It's the orotate is the
orotate's the good one.
The good one, but a lot of the prescribed lithium is the ones that we can't break down very well or utilize. Fascinating. Well, I'll just interject that I know for a fact if some of you are using Adderall or any of the stimulants for ADD, that will eventually affect your kidneys. So,
and your heart.
Okay,
because I have another client who has heart issues because of all the Adderall he was on from such a young age.
Yep. So there are solutions. We're about solutions. There is L-tyrosine, and of course we're not recommending anything. We're just talking about it. This is a discussion.
So I also want to say too, our body is perfect.
Yeah.
Our body knows what to do. Our body knows what to do to heal. It has an innate intelligence. Mm-hmm. We are the ones who have messed it up with the food that we eat, the chemicals that we're exposed to, the emotional stressors, chemical and physical stressors are what throw our body out of whack and what also activate our genes.
Right.
And we can keep them deactivated and we can keep those genes dormant and we can keep our body healthy if we're choosing the correct nutrition and we're doing things mindfully and we're taking that time out to have those breaks where we're resting and digesting.
Yes. And I just to ease any guilt about what you've been doing, a lot of us don't know. I did not know. And I've shared this before on other shows we've done. And it's part of my story that I got into nutrition because My son, who's now 39, was 5 years old, and he had a lot of headaches and mood swings, and and I didn't know what was going on with him, right? And so I remember the teacher saying, we think your son needs to be on Ritalin. So Adderall wasn't around back then. And does he have ADD? Yes. Many people do. It's just part of an identification on how different we are. But there are natural ways to work with ADD for sure. So, but I didn't know back then. And I was like, well, what is Ritalin? And then I looked it up and I was like, oh man, I'm not giving my 5-year-old a methamphetamine. So I ended up studying nutrition. I ended up going to a library. I was living in Connecticut at the time, and there was a naturopathic doctor talking about children's health, and all of a sudden, like, the light bulbs went on, and I went, oh my gosh, my pediatrician hasn't said anything about this. Why? Because they're not trained in it. And did you watch that video that was sent around about the Stanford doctor who said, we're not trained in nutrition. We don't know it. We're not trained in that. We're trained this way.
Yeah.
And there may be little nuggets in there, especially if you're a functional medicine doctor or a naturopath, you're learning it. But the regular MDs, sorry, they should be. And many choose that. Thank God. That doc that was talking about her training definitely did. So coming back to my son, I was like, okay. And then I just started studying nutrition. I went, could it be?
Mm-hmm. I know that.
The Gatorade, I was giving him Gatorade with blue dye in it. I didn't know. I love my baby.
I know. Well,
and all of a sudden he's jumping off the couches and he's just a little pain in the ass.
And I was like, what's sense, right? It makes so much sense now, thinking back and looking back at how your child reacted.
Mm-hmm.
We went to dinner the other night, me and my family, and my granddaughter got a soda pop, and she was out of control, uncontrollable.
Mm-hmm.
And when my kids were little, oh my gosh, my family hated to go out to dinner. My in-laws hated to go out to dinner with us because my kids were so horrible at dinner time. They would climb over the benches and get onto other people's tables and crawl under other people's tables. And like to the point where my kids would have to walk around and apologize to people at the end of dinner because it was so horrible. But that's why, because they were drinking soda, and I didn't know that that's why they were out of control and
I know
being so mischievous.
So again, if we're not trained in it or your parents aren't teaching it to you, you don't know. You just think, oh my gosh, what's wrong with my kid? I have to take him to a psychologist or and there still might be stuff you need to work out through a therapist or a psychologist, but really check the food and know that unfortunately a lot of the food out there has so much crap in it, and it doesn't even have the nutrients to feed their little brains, our brains. So make the choices, and it can be done. It can be done. I know it can feel overwhelming, but boy, is it worth it? Is it worth it to have your children be happy and balanced? And I see it with my niece. My niece got her master's in nutrition, and she's got 3 little children, and they are amazing. And they just eat real food. They eat real, organic food. She spends the money on that. They probably buy their clothes at the thrift stores. But, in terms of the food, she doesn't skimp on that.
Yeah, that's one thing
God
I
bless
won't
her.
ever skimp on either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what else do we have to say?
I know.
I'm checking the time, but I think the time is up
But
there
so
too.
mindful eating. Okay,
Mindful
so
eating. Yes.
Preparing your food
Mm-hmm.
with intention,
Yes.
buying your food with intention,
Yes.
creating a new relationship with it,
Yes.
engaging your 5 senses,
Mm-hmm.
understanding that what you're putting in your mouth is going through your body, and your body is pulling that nutrition from
Mm-hmm.
it and utilizing it where
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be utilized,
Mm-hmm.
and healing your body.
Mm-hmm.
That the food that's out there that's labeled as food isn't really food. It's just a bunch of fillers and a bunch of crap that's toxic to our body. And when it's toxic, our body cannot digest it.
Correct.
And so then it holds on to it, and it causes illnesses and diseases and
Mm-hmm.
autoimmune diseases.
Mm-hmm.
And our body is not our enemy. Our body is our friend. Our body wants us to be healthy. It's always trying to get us back into homeostasis. But if we keep on throwing toxins at it, it can't get better.
You're right.
We have that toxic burden. We have that toxic overload.
the Dawn toxic burden. I can't stand that toxic burden.
It's like a fire, Patty, you know, like a fire that's almost out and your body's like trying to reheal. So your body's trying to reheal. The fire's almost out and you throw another log on the fire and there goes all the toxins and the inflammation again.
Wow.
So
True.
this show is meant to empower you and educate you so that you can take control and
Yes, it is.
You can take into hands your health, your wellness, your family's health and wellness. And you can become your own advocate.
Absolutely.
And you can stand up and you can say, no, I'm not going to continue to participate in poisoning that's happening in the world and in our food system.
Right.
Because if you buy that food, you are participating in the poisoning that's continuing to happen.
Correct.
And I did this too. I would buy crap food all the time, like the Chips Ahoy and the little goldfish. Those were what I would
Chips
send
Ahoy.
Yeah, I love Chips Ahoy.
Oh my gosh.
Dipped in milk.
Oh man,
a glass of unorganic milk.
I know. Or the Oreos. I wonder why I had anxiety so much growing up. It's like, oh my gosh.
I wonder why I raged on my kids all the time.
Yep. Yep.
My brain was inflamed. Well,
so can I just share something? Because it was just popping into my head. So part of the food becomes our blood. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. So I just want to share the blood work that I had done just recently, and I was like, okay, I'm going to have blood work done.
Work for you.
I know I had the naturopath look at it, but I want you to look at it too. Jessica can read labs if you need to have her help you with that. So I'm 68, and the naturopath. Yeah.
What?
Shh. It's okay. But I want to tell you that she was so excited about my blood work. She said, thank you for having such healthy blood. Why do I have healthy blood? Because I've made those choices. It's probably better than my blood at 30 because I wasn't doing it back then. But for the last 25 years, I have been. I learned, and I said, you know what? I am going to make a difference in my life and hopefully my children's life too. And I can't control what they're eating. But usually when they feel crappy, I'm like, what are you eating and drinking, kids?
Exactly.
So it does come out in the labs too, and you do feel good. And that's part of it too. We can age gracefully. You know, this whole idea of, oh, well, you're just getting old. It's just part of getting old. I say BS to that. You can age gracefully when you take care of yourself and have pretty nice blood, like maybe like me.
Such good blood.
Such good blood. My blood is
68.
Happy. 68, good blood. So yeah.
Don't let the vampires know that.
Oh, I know. Halloween's coming. They may just want to be like knocking. Well, they'll just come in, I guess, won't they?
Better hang up some garlic.
Well, blood is real food, so it makes sense.
Oh, we should probably do a show on how to boost the immune system since that's coming up.
Yes, we'll do that.
Pati has her plate up class.
I do.
And when is that starting, Pati?
Well, my plate up class, and it's plate up for life. And it's high vibe food. It's really food therapy. So we do amino acid therapy, and this is also part of food therapy because it's therapeutic to eat that way. It's online, and it starts October 23rd. And you can go to my website, patireiss.com, and find out more information, PATIREISS, or you can email us at the
info at thewellnesscrusaders.com.
Do you check that email?
Yeah, I check it.
I never do, so.
I'm on it.
And tell us about your mindful class.
So I have my 6-week mindfulness challenge that I'm got to get on the wait list for it right now. It's going to launch in November, and it's taking you through mindful eating, mindful practices, breath. Just it's a phenomenal class that is going to help you become more connected with the present moment and help you to get out of that fight or flight state and into the rest and digest and relax state. It's something that will carry on throughout your life. Like mindfulness has been a huge part of my life, and it's just changed my life in so many ways and allowed me to be present with those that I love, more present in life, more grateful for everything that I have in my life. So
absolutely.
Yep.
Gratitude is very powerful.
info@thewellnesscrusaders.com, or you can also go to Jessica, or what is it? What's my website? Collectivehealingarts.life, LIFE.
Yep.
So thank you, everyone.
Thank
for
you,
joining
everybody.
us. Much love to all of
Much
you.
love. Mwah. Keep eating and praying.